Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Jey Lehr.
Thank you, Joe. It was incredibly exciting to be asked by President Trump's top advisor to create the slideshow you're about to see. What we did for President Trump, and I think it is very exciting, is essentially to turn back every single argument that the alarmists have. And these are the 5 or 6 areas that I'll go through very briefly in talking about the slides. The first slide shows that, as Joe mentioned, half the public still feels that man is responsible for global warming. And I'm going to tell you my bias right now. I have a bias that maybe is a little different than anybody in the room. And I think, I don't know if it was Joe said it or Senator Inhofe. Well, I think Joe quoted one of our new government officials saying that man is not the primary responsibility for climate change. Carbon dioxide is not the primary reason for climate change. I'll go a step further. I mean, I've been involved in this since the mid-'70s, when every prominent news magazine, that would be Time, Newsweek, and U.S. News and World Report, had a cover story of the impending ice age, the coming glacier. I really got involved then, been following it now for 40 years. And I will say carbon dioxide has no impact on the temperature of the planet. Most scientists will say, well, it may be a little bit. But Warren Buffett gives away $1 million if you get your bracket right in the NCAA tournament. I think I'd give $1 million if I had $1 million. That's an old Russian joke. If I had 2 houses, I'd give you one. Somebody says, would you give me your shirt? And the Russian says, no, I have 2. But nobody can nail down the role of carbon dioxide and say it's a 1% impact, 10%, no percent. It's none. So that's my bias that I think comes through in what we presented. But half the public still thinks it plays a major role. As was pointed out by Senator Inhofe, it comes out last in terms of the concerns of the public. There are 17, I think, maybe less, issues the public is concerned about. Bjorn Lomborg started this. He started a consensus every other year. Economists meet in Copenhagen, and they vote on what matters in the world. Where would you put your money, basically? Global warming comes out last. Of the people who voted in the last election, 14% of people who voted for Trump thought climate change was a problem. 66% of Clinton people. While the names, 66, yeah, so while the names of Trump and Clinton are up there, I want to caution all of you, or really give you a hint to how to feel better about life. I woke up on the morning of November 9th. Actually, I never went to bed. It was way too exciting. I woke up euphoric. And I have woken up euphoric every day since. But I have an edge on most of you. Most of you are happy with the election of President Trump, but you're measuring life against a level playing field. You say, well, Trump is better than nothing. No, Trump is better than Clinton. You've got to measure the hole we would have been in if the Wicked Witch had been elected. And then you measure up from the bottom of the hole to where we are now. And if you don't wake up euphoric, you just have a negative view of life. This is where the temperature has been the last 10,000 years, where we've been on a general decline. You are aware that we essentially ended a little ice age when George Washington was at Valley Forge, and all of you that understand what Valley Forge was about, you wonder how those soldiers survived and how we were able to continue fighting the war, because that was a low point in temperature. I mean, it was really freezing. From Valley Forge on, we have, warmed up to a little bit of normalcy, but as you know, we've not warmed up in the last 18 years. Satellites show the temperature has been relatively constant. The other line are the predictions of absurd models. What's this? That one is, okay. You can read it, I can't. But you can see stability there. One of the most interesting things is how little carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere. It's roughly 4/100ths of a single percent. Common sense, and that's what we tried to get across to President Trump, common sense would tell you, how can 4/100ths of 1% of a gas in the atmosphere control climate to the point that we have been spending an average of $6 billion a year fighting it for over a decade. But this is my favorite diagram. There is a picture of the Earth, and superimposed over it are 10,000 dots. There are 10,000 dots on that picture. The green dots represent the primary greenhouse gas, which you all know is water vapor. The large black area in the bottom is carbon dioxide, but the tiny little square in the bottom right-hand corner is man's contribution to carbon dioxide. Factories, automobiles, and power plants. I mean, how impossible it is to think that little tiny bit it controls the temperature of the planet. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. Here is carbon dioxide measurements going back thousands of years, and that used to be much higher. We're at 400 now. We were at 1800 when the dinosaurs worked the Earth, and I'm one of the few people that remember that vividly. This is carbon dioxide. That's temperature. Where's the link? Where is the link between the two? There simply is none at all. There's no relationship. And if you've read Fred Singer and Dennis Avery's book, Temperature Change Every 1,500 Years, one of the things we know for sure is that when we go back 900,000 years of ice core records, the increase in temperature comes centuries before the increase in carbon dioxide, which you should all know if you drink any carbonated soda. You open a can of carbonated soda, you forgot about it and you left it on the counter, and you come back when it's warm and it's not carbonated anymore, because warm water gets rid of its carbon dioxide, cold water has more of it. So there just is no link. Here's another picture essentially showing the temperature versus the increase in carbon dioxide, and there has been an increase. We were at 280 at World War II. We're at 400 now. Somebody in the audience, other than Craig Itso, yell out to me the level of carbon dioxide at which we all perish. 150. 150. We were perilously close in World War II at 280. This slide's a little bit complicated, but I'll explain it very quickly. The carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has already absorbed all of the heat it's capable of absorbing from the planet. Carbon dioxide only absorbs a very narrow range in the heat spectrum. And the carbon dioxide in the air has already absorbed that. We can double carbon dioxide. It isn't going to create any more warming at all. And this kind of shows how that's we're down to virtually nothing. Here are the models. We finance 117 models. We should only need one model. They average them out. They average 117 mistakes. Does that make any sense? Of course not. The satellite readings, it's ridiculous, and yet we have been plowing close to $6 billion a year into supporting them, and of course we know the temperature of the planet has not changed. I guess we were conservative saying 15 years. We're pretty close to 20 now. So now we go into all the areas that the nice lady sitting next to me challenged me on. That, in fact, you're aware we went from global warming to climate change. What do we talk about now? Extreme weather. Extreme weather is now the password. So we created a slide for President Trump on each of these extremes. These are heat waves over a long period of time. You can see there's nothing new there. These are droughts. The bottom is the heaviest drought up to the top to milder droughts. You can see there's no change over time there. What do we have there? Tornadoes. If you live in Oklahoma, as Senator Inhofe does, it's called Tornado Alley, Oklahoma, Kansas. We've not had any increase in tornadoes. Most of you are aware. We have not had a hurricane touch land in 10 years. Wildfires are on the way down. I was amazed how smart this woman was, at least reading the newspaper. She knew all the scare stories. And I was able, over an hour and a half, to refute them. Here's the hurricane slide. They're all very simple, and Joe and Jim Lakely, who are really more responsible for the slides than I, were able to show one that would very quickly show President Trump. Now, what they asked us was, as you well know, I was told, and you know, President Trump has called global warming a hoax. What he wanted was the technical support for his position that it is a hoax. Now, I'm a little worried, I've got to admit. There are two people in his administration who are unsure of it being a hoax and may cause us to still spend money. I hope not. One is his daughter, who makes great dresses. But she's a greenie, and one of her closest friends is Chelsea Clinton, and that should scare the hell out of you. And the other, unfortunately, is Rex Tillerson, who wants to stay in the game. I think he's going to be a great Secretary of State, but I hope he doesn't have too much influence on the president's position of climate change. Sea level hasn't changed at all. Tom Weissmuller is on the program, and that's one of his areas of expertise. Worked for NASA for years, and we know that sea level rises, I think it's 7 inches a century or 7 centimeters, and it's been the same for 800 years. We've got terrific sea level measurements. You can see high water marks all over the globe, and we know there's been no change in sea level. I teach economics. And one of my heroes up until a week ago was Art Laffer. Art Laffer writes a lot about economics and really bright. And when he was challenged on money spent on global warming, his response was scary. I'm about to tell you. He said, I have to refer to my friend Al Gore on that. That was the end of him being a hero of mine. One of the great things with the increase in carbon dioxide is the increase in yields in agriculture. As you can see here, wheat production, rice production, soy and corn have all increased as a result. You all know carbon dioxide is to a plant what oxygen is to us. In the volumes that we've put out, Climate Change Reconsidered, we have hundreds of articles showing how plants and trees have prospered, food crops, wildlife, human health, and economic growth. We really have to be more on the offensive. And for the 5 people each year you're from now on are going to convince that man is not causing any impact on the temperature of the planet, we really have to make them understand that carbon dioxide is wonderful. It's wonderful. It's why we live here. I mean, the primary reason that I have no idea whether there's life on other celestial bodies, but I doubt it, is the lack of carbon dioxide. I mean, to have plant life, to feed animals, to feed us, it's all about carbon dioxide, and we're so fortunate to have it, and we're fortunate to have more of it. The Dutch have been growing their tulips under excessive carbon dioxide for 50 years or more. Intense. They pump in the carbon dioxide. Growth is better. Everything about carbon dioxide is good, and the most important thing we've got to do in the next few years is reverse the endangerment finding. I mean, the absurdity of it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. The 97 consensus situation is so crazy, I will not attempt to explain it to you, but you all have a book in your bag called Why Scientists Disagree on Global Warming, Climate Change, and in it, it explains Naomi Oreskes' original article, and there were 3 other articles. If you read about how those studies were done to come up with 97%, you have to break out laughing. You just absolutely have to break out laughing. And yet it's been bandied about for so long that if you really don't understand anything about climate, you've been hearing it forever, and you accept that number. It's patently absurd. You all know about ClimateGate. You know the lies and all the emails that we found. The alarmists have been doctoring their work and hiding their emails. We caught them, but of course it doesn't matter to the mainstream media or to the alarmists. One of the things that people don't understand about the IPCC is their charge. There's some people here that were once on the IPCC committee and resigned. The charge was not to find out about global warming or climate change. The charge was only to find man's role in increasing the temperature of the planet. Just so absurdly flawed that it's not worth talking about. So Jim Inhofe mentioned the Clean Power Plan. Ultimately, that's going to save the coal industry. We've been fighting for coal at Heartland for years. EPA regulations, we're rolling them back literally every day. Scott Pruitt, I think, was a good choice. He's moving a little slow for my money, but I think we'll get things done. The end of the Paris Agreement is critical. Let me tell you a few things about the Paris Agreement that you do not know, but if you read the book Klexit by Don Deers that each of you has in your bag, the entire agreement, I think it's 41 or 47 pages long, is in Don Deers' brief 100-page book called Klexit. And in the book, there are 6 things you want to know that required of the United States being a part of the agreement. 1, it says, because we're the richest country, we got to pay most of the bill. Obama committed $3 billion to the Green Action Climate Fund and wrote the check for $500 million. I'm reasonably confident that our new Secretary of Treasury isn't going to sign a check for any more money. The next neat thing is the treaty says that any country other than the United States can sue the United States if they can show that our greenhouse gases floated over their airspace. They can sue us. And if we challenge it, the situation is adjudicated by members of the treaty, not a court. And Iran has been labeled as one of the countries that would sit on the adjudication court. It also says that any technology developed in the United States has to prove that it does not significantly increase carbon dioxide, or we're not allowed to use the technology. It also says if we develop a technology to reduce carbon dioxide emissions, we must share it with the rest of the world with no remuneration whatsoever. I mean, it's insane. If you read it, you will be laughing before you get to the end of it as well. We have to withdraw. Unfortunately, the great dressmaker, Ivanka Trump, and Rex Tillerson want us to keep a chair at the table. It's really absurd if you think about it. We don't need a chair at anyone's table. We're the strongest country in the world. You dance to our tune. We do not want a chair at that table. We want the end of it. We'll see what happens. Rex Tillerson and young Ivanka might hold sway with her dad. That would be sad, but kind of understand that. Trump is doing better than I would have imagined. Pro-environment, pro-energy, pro-jobs. He amazes me. I have a very good friend that played football with him at the New York Military Academy and said everybody thought he was the greatest thing since sliced bread in high school. They loved him. He was captain of the New York Military Academy's football team. I met Donald in 1987, shortly after he wrote The Art of the Deal. And he was so honest and open about going bankrupt and then coming back. I mean, he was just terrific then. I was maybe one of the few people, when I saw him come down the escalator, 2 years ago, come July 16th, that felt that he would be a great president because he had nothing to gain other than being a great president. He didn't need any more money. He didn't need any more power. Whether he was bright enough to be everything I wanted, I didn't know then. I'm not sure now, but every day I become more certain of it. So climate policy, I don't know if we need a climate policy. We have nothing to do with climate. It's so arrogant. Can you imagine the arrogance of believing that we have an impact on the climate of this planet is absurd. But if the liberals are not anything else, they're arrogant. So we've got to change things, and things are changing. Worst case scenario, we're going to come out of this better. We've got to end the funding for the terrible things that EPA, NASA, Oceanographic Survey is doing, and the United Nations. And I think our Treasury Secretary, if I'm assuming the Treasurer has to sign the big checks, I know who he is well enough to think he's not going to be signing any more checks for climate research to these organizations. Well, how can you believe how quickly he moved on the Keystone Pipeline? The Clean Power Plan, this is fabulous. If you want to know more about my plan to devolve EPA to the Committee of the Whole, come to the panel on policy at 4:30 this afternoon with Dennis Hedke and Scott Armstrong. We'll be talking about that. He's already rolled back drilling, canceling regulation after regulation, subsidies for wind and solar. I've been hoping for Elon Musk to go bankrupt for years and years. He's way smarter than me. I expect the man has an IQ of 200, and he knows how to game the system. I predicted that Tesla would be over by now. I love making predictions, and I never mind being wrong. But I predict that he will not be able to put out $500,000, $35,000 Teslas that get 200 miles on a charge as he claims he's going to do. And eventually people will begin to realize he makes boasts that it cannot happen. But wind and solar should end. They really should be over. Both of those industries are dead meat if the government stops subsidizing. We're a long way from that. Their lobbies are incredible. I'd like to think at the end of Trump's 8 years, they'll be over, but I won't stake my life on it, but we've got to move. Solar and wind, I would like to put a PVC solar cell on every hut in Africa. I worked in Chad. You know what happens when the sun goes down in Chad? Nothing happens. That's where we need solar energy. A light bulb from a single PVC solar cell would be spectacular. Windmills, they have a place. I'm not sure anymore where, but if you hate birds, they have a place. Tonopah is killing 500,000 of them a year. And the government gave the right to kill eagles a 30-year right at Tonopah in order to have a $2 billion solar farm operating at 17% capacity. It's insanity. Eventually, these things have to go away. Nuclear power and the LNT. Look at the top and the bottom. Nuclear power will someday run the world. We can't run out of it. It's the safest form of power. They're still talking about Fukushima, which didn't cause a single person to get radiation poisoning or die. They still talk about it as a disaster. I always thought the Japanese were smart, but they've turned off their nuclear power plants. We are not building nuclear anymore. Well, there are 2 plants being built in Georgia, 2 in South Carolina. Whether they ever get finished, I'm not sure. But the cost of a nuclear power plant used to cost $3 billion. Now it's $9 billion because we've installed safety requirements to bring radiation down to 0. And it's all because of the low dose, no threshold model that is totally flawed. If you're into biology at all, Ed Calabrese is the hero of fighting the LNT. If we could get rid of the LNT and realize that there are thresholds below which radiation is not a problem, which is definitely true, the costs of nuclear may come down, though I don't expect it to happen. And we also sent President Trump a list of the materials from which we got all this. I hope that he takes heed of everything we've done. It's a lot, and so you should know that Heartland has been a go-to place for the president and for his transition team and all the people he's appointed, and it's very exciting. Again, thank you all for being here. We'll see you all next 2 days. Who's up now?